Do you remember the last time you were taking a shit and then you couldn't clean all of it from your ass because maybe it's so big from eating all those Cheetos? Wait a second. Your memory's not that good, is it? Well, I got just the thing for you. I'm going to show you a memory test that hopefully will test to see if your memory is as good as your ability to down a 64-ounce Mountain Dew. But anyways, this test isn't going to be very hard. We're just going to have a couple cards picked. In this case, the first card we'll pick will be the 3 of diamonds. Can you remember that? Or do I have to rub some bacon on it? The next one, I'll make it easy on you because you can't even reach your own ass to wipe it. We'll go for the 3 of clubs. Let's go for 2 more. So let me rummage through this deck like you rummage through a bag of Cheetos. We'll go for the king of spades, a court card. That should be easy enough to remember. And then we need one last card. Of course, remember that at this point, the spectators could be touching any cards they want, even if it might transfer some sort of the oils from their hand onto the playing cards. Really doesn't matter. So we'll go for one last card here. Let's say they pick the king of clubs. So that's the last card, and we'll be using these cards to test your memory. So if we give them a mixeroo, as they like to call it in jail, we'll go for this one. Do you remember what this one was? Ace of spades, you don't remember that one? How about the ace of hearts? Or the ace of clubs? Or the ace of diamonds? They turned into the aces. Motherfucker. Bet you didn't see that coming. Unlike your diabetes. So that's one application of the move that I'm going to be showing you guys in this particular video. This is a routine that could be done anytime, anywhere with a borrowed deck, assuming that it is enough of a good quality deck to do a spread call and not want to kill yourself. So you could do this with a borrowed shuffle deck. But before we actually get into the trick itself, it's going to be very important that you understand the mechanics of the move itself. Essentially, what's taking place with the move is that you are moving a number of cards or one single card behind the deck. So it looks like this. If you get it right, you're just using your fingers of your right hand to manipulate the card out of the spread and putting it wherever it is that you desire. But of course, I need to get a little bit more detailed for the people from Saskatchewan. So you're spreading the cards between your hands. Of course, let's say we're going to be calling the ace of clubs, which is going to be the 3rd card from the deck. So what's going to happen is that you're going to use your left thumb to put pressure on the card above it while using the right hands to slip that ace behind the spread. So you're putting direct pressure with your left thumb, which allows your right hand to extract the card from the spread itself. So if we do this with another ace, let's say the ace of diamonds, you're putting your thumb on the card above it. In this case, is the king of clubs. And with your right hand, what you're doing is that you are using your middle finger to pull the ace out from behind the card that you have your thumb on and putting it wherever you desire. Let's say it goes back on top of the deck. At speed, it should look like you are just casually glancing through the deck, whether you have some sort of fetish or just pointing out that the order of the deck is random, but you control the card with that simple move. One tip that helps, let's say we're calling the jack of hearts, you are squaring it up with the card directly above it. In this case is the 3 of diamonds, and you need to put direct pressure with that left thumb. That's what allows that card to easily slide out from your right hand, and you could put it on top of the deck or at a certain position that you want, whatever it is the trick entails. If you want to call cards easily, let's say we want to do the Joker, there's a move by an OG nigga named Dave Solomon. What he does is that he calls a random card. Let's say we go for this one. When you reach the card you actually want to call, of course this card is sliding behind the entire time. Let's say we get to the Joker, we want to call this card. By having this card, it makes it a lot easier to remove the Joker from the spread and slide it out because of the friction between the cards. That little addition of the indifferent card makes the call a lot easier to do. Let me do it one more time for the fucks from France. You are going to be calling a random card. In this case, it's going to be the ace of clubs. This one is going to go along for the spread as you are spreading the rest of the deck. When you get to the card that you do want to call, in this case is the Joker is going to come out a lot easier than if it would if you weren't calling that card originally. That's how you use this move as a control. Now, as far as using this move as a switch, like we did for the original memory ace trick, the way we do that is pretty simple, assuming you don't have multiple sclerosis. So let's say that the card we want to switch out for is going to be the queen of spades. So this card is going to get called, of course, behind the spread, like we discussed earlier. If we get to a card that they select, like the king of hearts, what's going to happen is that king of hearts is going to go directly under the queen of spades that is being called. So what's going to happen is that we have the queen of spades and then the king of hearts. We're going to be able to switch the queen for the king by just squaring up the deck. So by squaring up the deck, that puts the queen on top of the king so that when you turn over your right hand, the card that you are thumbing off is the actual Queen of Spades because we switched it out for the King of Hearts, which is back here. But show us again. But show us again. So I'm going to leave the Queen of Spades face down just so I can show it again. So remember, we're calling the Queen of Spades here in the back. They can touch any card they want. Let's say they go for the 2 of diamonds. So the Queen of Spades is going to go in front, or technically behind, the 2 of diamonds. So that when we square up the deck and turn the right hand over, the card we're thumbing off is the card that we wanted to have switched. Now, if you want to control that card to the top, you just put the right hand packet below the left hand packet. Now, as far as the initial ace trick, the way we do this is the aces are spread around the deck, which means that you could do this with a shuffled deck, assuming the spectators don't get McDonald's grease all over your very expensive Theory 11 deck. So we're going to go and spread the deck and look for the first ace that we can find. This ace, of course, gets called in the back as you have the spectator point to any card that they want. Let's say we go for the Jack of Hearts. You then do the same switch that we discussed earlier when you square up the deck with the ace in the back, and this card gets thumbed off to the table. So you're going to repeat this move 3 more times with the other aces. So we find the first ace, the ace of clubs. We spread through whatever card that they want to pick. Let's say this time they touch a 2 of diamonds. We switch this one the exact same way as before. And then we continue and do this with the other 2 aces. In this case, we got the ace of spades. So the ace of spades is a little bit further down in the deck, but it still doesn't matter. They can touch a card the same way. We do the switch as before. And the last one here is the ace of hearts, again called in the back. Then we have the 4 of clubs, and we do the switch. Remember, the card is going behind, so then when we square it up, the ace of clubs is the one above it. If you are not autistic, you can figure out by this point that we switched out the cards that they touch for the aces, so you can mix them up, do whatever pattern you want, and then ask them if they remember any of these specific cards, of course being the smartass and showing that they've all changed to the aces. So there's a couple things that can happen if you're doing this. For example, let's say one scenario is that they touch an ace. So let's say we've called the ace of spades, we find it in a spread, we call it behind the spread, and then the spectator decides to touch the ace of diamonds. So at this point, what's going to happen is that you are not going to do the switch. You're going to put the ace of spades behind the ace of diamonds, and you're going to do the same motion. You're going to square up the deck, but this time you're not doing any sort of switch. So the ace of diamonds is actually going on the table. The ace of spades gets cut into the middle of the deck, so that way you could then do it with the ace of spades. But that's not an issue. It saves you a call, so we welcome this scenario. Another possibility that can happen is that you don't find an ace for a while, so that means that the ace is actually spread all the way in the back of the deck. So by the time I get to the halfway point and I don't see an ace, at that point I'll just cut the deck, so that way that should bring an ace closer, so then I can actually do a call with that ace. So really, you're never going to be put in a situation where you won't be able to do this trick, so fucking do it. It's a good practice for the call, and it gets the ladies wet. So as far as some other stuff you can do with this move, I'll show you guys a force. Let's say you want to force the 4th card from the top, which will be the 4 of clubs. So it's going to be the same as a switch. You're going to get to the 4, you're going to call it behind, and then whatever card that they decide to touch, the 4 is going along for the right. So we're going to square this card up the exact same way as the switch. The only difference is that the cards are now face down. I hope you've realized that. And then when you do the whole switch, this time instead of switching the card, you've actually forced it. So one more time, let's say you call the 4th card from the top of the deck. They touch whatever card they want. As you square up the cards in your right hand, what's going to happen is that that's going to bring the 4 above that card. So when you turn over the right hand, you've actually successfully forced that face down card. The last and best application of this move, holy shit, you guys are getting a lot for this move. I better get some dick pics or some shit. So what's going to happen is that this move is obviously used as a way to control multiple cards under the guise of looking for other cards. So let's say the aces are spread throughout the rest of the deck and you want to take out the jokers for whatever reason. As you are spreading, supposedly looking for the jokers, you're actually spotting the aces, and you are going to have them along the spread behind the call. So then when we get to the joker, you actually outjog them, and then you could look through the rest of the deck saying, hopefully there's no other jokers. Really, you're just getting the aces and calling them to the top of the deck. So under the pretense of removing the jokers, you now should have the aces on top of the deck, ready for whatever pussy blower trick you want to go for. So those are like 35 different applications of this one move that you could do. Now, one problem is that if you have dry hands, that could fuck it up. So it's important to spit on your hands or have some sort of moisture which allows you to pull the card easier when you're doing the cull. So that is going to be an important tip. Make sure you moisturize effectively. If not, this is going to be an extremely difficult move to accomplish correctly. But there you go. That's a bunch of stuff you can do with the spread cull. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Smash that motherfucking sub button. I'm here sucking dick and giving hand jobs for money. Speaking of, I need to go get grocery money.
See you again. When I 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 see you again.